Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm McKenna Schueler, a journalist based in Tampa, Florida. I write about labor and broader issues affecting the working class, like housing and abortion access. Last week for the Real News, I spoke with 26-year-old Scottie Washington of East Tampa. He's worked multiple jobs in retail, but he currently works as a cabin cleaner for Spirit Airlines at Tampa International Airport. Scotty's also a member of the Local 32BJ of the Service Employees International Union, or the SEIU, which represents about 5,000 airport workers, security officers, and janitors in Florida. Based where I am in Central Florida, I've covered the organizing efforts of airport workers in Tampa and Orlando for local media, WMNF Community Radio, Creative Loafing Tampa Bay, and Orlando Weekly. Just over the last year alone, airport workers across the state in cities like Tampa, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami have staged multiple actions with Local 32BJ, demanding a living wage and benefits, especially as the cost of living in the state continues to rise with little or, if any, relief. Last month, a group of local airport workers, including Scotty, were flown up to Washington, D.C. for the introduction of the Good Jobs for Good Airports Act. That federal bill, sponsored by Democratic Senator Ed Markey and House Rep Chuy Garcia, would establish national wage and benefit standards for all U.S. airport workers, many of whom are people of color and immigrants. Workers would be paid a minimum $15 an hour or higher, with basic job benefits like health care and paid sick leave. One common message you hear from the 32BJ is poverty wages don't fly. And you know what? They're right. And we're seeing that in action. Thousands of flights are being canceled or delayed, frustrating passengers, their families, and leaving many airport workers overworked, exhausted, and their labor severely undervalued. Pilots, flight attendants, service workers, everyone who actually keeps the airport running. Airlines like Delta and United, meanwhile, have reaped billions of dollars in revenue. Over the last few decades, airlines and airports have increasingly outsourced service jobs, like cabin cleaners, to low-paying contractors. That's driven down job standards and wages for essential work at airports like Tampa International. It can also make it more difficult for workers to organize. Corporate greed and outsourcing is leaving airports' essential workers struggling just to meet basic needs, like food and shelter. As recently as last year, some contracted workers at Tampa International were making as little as $7 or $8 an hour, relying on tips from passengers. But as the saying goes, there's power in a union. Airport service workers in Boston, for instance, recently won their first pay raise in years, establishing a $16 an hour minimum. Just this month, thousands of airport workers in Chicago also got a raise. Scottie Washington, a lifelong Tampa resident, is proud of the work he does at the airport. And he's also proud to fight with his union for a better future for all workers, for generations to come. Here's my interview with Scottie. I hope you'll hang tight and listen to his story.
My name is Scottie Washington. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I work for Spirit Airlines, and right now I'm a cabin cleaner.
And so you work at Tampa International Airport. Can you explain more about the kind of work that you do as a cabin cleaner?
Yes, ma'am. When the planes come in, I usually have a set schedule of planes. And what I do is I go on the planes and I usually clean the labs. From cleaning the labs would basically mean changing out the toilet paper, sanitizing things. From there, I go inside of the compartments and I take out the trash, whether it be 1, 2, or 3. We also vacuum in between the seats and get under the seats. And we also clean the cockpits. Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you done that kind of work at the airport?
I've been doing that for about probably a year now, a year or so. Yes, ma'am.
And I guess before we get more into the work and your job, can you tell us a little bit more about you? Tell listeners, like, what's your story? What's your background?
Yeah, I'm from Tampa, Florida. Like I said, I'm 26 years old. A lot of people wasn't expecting me to be in this position what I'm doing right now as an outspoken young man. But I take pride in myself doing what I'm doing. I'm the only child. I really much just enjoy life. I'm a really fun person to be around, but lately it's just been nothing but just seriousness. So I just don't have friends right now. But yeah, I enjoy life and I enjoy where I stay in. So yes, ma'am.
So I know that you reached out to WMNF, which is the radio station where I work part-time in Tampa, Florida, after I produced a story about Tampa International Airport workers and your union, the 32BJ SEIU. Can you tell listeners why you reached out?
I reached out because I just don't feel like we're getting enough response back from people about this whole situation. You know, it's desperate times calls for desperate measures at this point. We have to some way reach out to the outlets so the outlets can help us, you know. Not saying anything and staying inside of the shadows, that doesn't get the message out there. So I reached out because I have to say something because like I said, I'm from the future and I'm, you know, the present too of what we got going on as far as, you know, for the youth and the culture. So I took it upon myself to actually reach out and make a phone call to try to get this message out to this man.
Yeah, I was really excited to get your voicemail and to be able to get in touch with you. I know I've talked to a few of your coworkers, Frank, Anthony, Gladys, who also work at the airport as airport service workers. Um, and you mentioned the situation, trying to get the word out about the situation. Can you explain what is the situation at the airport right now?
Basically we're getting underpaid. We have dangerous jobs and we're only making 11 to $12 an hour. Some may say, well, how is pushing a wheelchair dangerous? Well, you got to think about it. If I'm pushing somebody and I'm having back problems, I could hurt my back. Or if I'm out there filling an airplane and somehow something goes wrong, the plane may catch fire, I may catch on fire, or, you know, me cleaning the plane, I may reach for something to get poked by a needle and the needle may be affected. You know, it's those little things and the moments that we have to be paid for because at any given moment, it's a dangerous job. Anything could happen. You know, we should get paid as if it was a hazardous job. Yes, ma'am.
And when was the last time? I know you've worked there for about a year, but have you seen a pay raise in that time? And if so,
Me personally, I have, but I wasn't a part of it. I really can't go into that matter, but I have seen a pay raise. I can't really go into that. But yes, I have seen a pay raise, but it took some action to get it though.
yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that kind of action?
Um, Sometimes you have to be a sacrificial lamb in order to move something to get something done. And like I said, unfortunately, I can't speak on it, but I had to be the sacrificial lamb in order for other people to get what they needed. So,
And so you spoke about the pay, and there's some workers at Tampa International Airport who are employed not just by the airport, but by employers that the airport contracts with for these positions like baggage handlers, wheelchair attendants, and cabin cleaners like yourself. And I know when I reported on the airport last year, um, your coworkers and your union held a rally, and some workers were saying that they were making as little as $7 or $8 an hour with tips. And now it seems like the wages have maybe gone up a tiny bit, but what do you think has caused maybe the airport to like raise wages even that small bit? Like, I know that there have been staffing shortages at the airport. Can you speak a little bit more about what it's been like just working at the airport in the past year and with the pandemic ongoing and everything?
Me personally, when the pandemic was going on, I was actually a part of it. I actually caught COVID. I was working on the ramp. Excuse me. I was working on the ramp, and all of us caught COVID. Believe it or not. It was about 18 people out for about 2 weeks. They were very short-handed. And that right there kind of showed me that the airport didn't really care about us necessarily, or the company that was contracted for the airport didn't really care about us because How could you have people sitting out for 2 weeks with no pay, knowing that they have kids and they have families and they have food to take care of, you know? But you still expect me to come to work with a smile on my face, be happy that I have a job and be happy that I'm out here. But how can I be happy when I've been out for 2 weeks? Now I have to catch back up on my bills. It doesn't make sense. And the pandemic really opened my eyes to a lot of things about the airport. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so it's my understanding too, it's not just the wages that are so low, but you don't get any benefits, do you?
Oh, no, ma'am. The most benefits I have, and this is how they get people to work at the airport. This is how they got me. They give you flight benefits. So basically, you get put on a standby list, and you fly for free. That's how they get you. But they don't tell you that you don't get health care, you don't get dentistry, you don't get the things that you need to live. Like flying is cool. Don't get me wrong. I love flying for free, but that's not my life. Like if I get sick, I don't have any insurance. Now I have to just sit here in my room and suffer because I don't have to pay a hospital bill because I don't have the money for it. So it's very sickening to me how they don't care about human life. I just really feel like they don't care about human life. Like we're nothing but machines to them, parts of a machine. So yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and for folks who listening who don't know, the Tampa Bay area has just seen skyrocketing rent and housing costs in general over the past year or so, literally some of the highest in the nation. So a pay rate of $11, $12 an hour, even $15 an hour, frankly, isn't enough to cover the cost of rent right now, even for your average apartment. I've heard stories of landlords raising rent by 40, 50%. So, Scotty, could you just tell us a little bit more what it's like to even just try to survive in Tampa right now?
It's a fight. You have to decide between eating and paying rent. And I'm gonna say that again. You have to decide between eating and paying rent. Um, the the prices here in Tampa have skyrocketed since I've been back home from school. I've never seen a one bedroom here in Tampa, Florida, being $1,300 or $1,600 for a one bedroom. I have never seen that, and I'm born and raised here. I've never seen that happen before. So it's very perplexing how we could just raise the rent, but we don't say anything about the wages. It's a scary thing. It's very scary.
And so you've talked about taking action and stuff. So you're a member of a union, the 32BJ. How did that happen? How did you get involved with the union?
For purposes I can't say, I'll just put it in layman's terms. I got screwed, and I'm not going to go into it. I'm just say that. And it kind of opened my eyes to the point where I knew I needed to take action, because I feel like anybody else who's going to be in my shoes in the next 5 to 10 to 12 years is probably going to go through the same thing that I'm going through right now. So if I don't do something now, the next person is going to go through what I went through, and the next person is going to go through what they went through. It's going to be a never-ending cycle. So we have to do something to change the narrative now. We're in the present. Let's do something for the present so we can shape the future, because the past is already past.
And have you been a member of a union before?
No, ma'am. Actually, my uncle worked for a local dock shipyard out here on Channel Side, and he was actually in the union as a security guard. So when I was a little boy, he always used to talk about the union, how they helped them and all this other stuff. But I really didn't pay it no mind. I didn't know what the union was. One of my idols is Jimmy Hoffa. Like I said, I like what he did for the union. I know he had his thing on the side, but what he did for the union, that was a very powerful thing. And I will always thank Mr. Hoffa for that. I look to his things of what he did in the union, just with the union, not outside the union. Yes, ma'am.
And what does it feel like to be a member of the 32BJ at the airport, fighting with your fellow coworkers for higher wages and for benefits? How does that feel?
I feel like I'm a part of a family. I'm not even gonna not even gonna lie, I feel like I'm part of a family because when everything happened to me at the airport, I honestly shut down and I didn't feel like I had any help at the time. But unfortunately, the good Lord was looking out for me and the union approached me again. And ever since then, really, I just been willing down to fight. You know, it's just something that I'm gonna continue doing even after all this is over with. Yesterday I took a walk, you know, after everything, and I kind of asked myself, what was I gonna do after this? And I really feel like I'm gonna keep going. I don't know if it's gonna be still doing this after all this is over with, but I do want to take this further. You know, I do want to change America if I can.
Yeah, so on that note, you and your union are currently fighting for the passage of legislation called the Good Jobs for Good Airports Act. That's a federal bill. Can you explain for folks what that is and why you're fighting for it?
Basically, the bill is going to help change and shape America's how can I say this, transit system as far as airplanes in the sky, the way workers are getting paid. We're fighting because I know somebody personally who makes $6 an hour right now, came out of retirement just to help the fight, but he makes $6 an hour. To say the least of somebody coming out, you know, of retirement and seeing what other people are going for, I would hope, you know, that more people will want to get up and fight for what we're doing, because what we're doing is groundbreaking and innovative. This is going to be historic. And like I keep bringing up, this is going to be something for the future generations to look back on and have a blueprint to whatever they're going to fight for, and take a look at our blueprint to see what we did. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so you actually went up to Washington, D.C. last month to for the introduction of the legislation with Senator Ed Markey and Representative Chuy Garcia. How was it like to go to DC and meet other workers from across the country at airports who are fighting for the same things as you?
It was a shell shock. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to you. I'm from a neighborhood on the east side of town, where it's rough, you know. So when they asked me to go to DC, I thought they were joking, to be honest with you. But when I actually got on the plane and got to DC and got there, it was much of a culture shock, if anything. But just being there and meeting the senators and the bill being introduced, you know, I can't really explain. It's a feeling that I would want to give to anybody, because like I said, I'm from a little side of the town, east side of Tampa, you know, where they write us up as statistics, you know. So meeting all those senators and, you know, being a part of a federal bill with my name, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in for me. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so there were workers from different airports, like I think the Boston airport or maybe Houston or Dallas or something. What was it like to hear from them?
It was good, but the most things the thing that I picked up on, it was people from Brazil and Africa, you know. Um, that was a sight to behold, because they flew all the way to DC just to come help us. And yes, it was nice meeting other people and hearing their stories from other states, but it was hearing the other people's fights that are not inside of the US. That's what really captivated me. You know, there's people struggling that's not even in America. You know, everything looks like glitter and gold on TV, but it's not. You know, people are really out here struggling that are working at the airport, and it's a dire, scary situation.
Yeah, that kind of show of international solidarity is pretty rad. And it's neat that you got to see that and be a part of that. I understand that Democratic Congresswoman here in Florida, Val Demings, who's the U.S. representative for Florida's 10th congressional district, she came to speak with workers at Tampa International Airport last week, including yourself. Can you explain how that went?
Yes, Miss Demings, she's a good person. State Representative Miss Val Demings, so she's a great person. I talk to her as if she was my own mother, you know, and I just want to thank her if she ever listens to this for coming out. But I'm glad she actually heard us and actually sat there and really talked to us about, you know, the issues that are going on and the issues that we're facing. And the fact that she took out time out of her busy schedule to talk to us was very, you know, sincere. But we really talked to her about the things that are going on. I have a friend in the union who has blood clots in his leg right now, and he can't work, you know. So it's a lot. Like, this is we gave her the reality of what's going on, you know. This guy can't work because he has blood clots in his leg. He has no insurance, no nothing, you know. I couldn't tell her what I was going on, you know, for legal purposes, but when I looked her in the eyes, I explained to her, you know, we got to do this for your grandkids. We got to do this for my future kids, you know. I can't emphasize this enough through this whole interview. We got to shape the future. We got to shape the future right now in the present. And that's what I really wanted her to understand. We have to shape the present in order to shape the future, because the past is already gone.
And what do you want the future to look like?
I don't want the future generation of people to have to fight. I want them to focus on something else that's bigger than the airport. They shouldn't have to be sitting here fighting for higher wages at an airport that makes $14.4 billion. You know, I want them to focus on other things like world hunger or world peace, you know, stuff like that. You know, it's other things to focus on in this world other than arguing about why am I getting paid a low wage from an airport. I don't personally, me, I don't want my kids to have to go through that, because that's just wrong. I don't want them to sit here and struggle like me. I don't want them to sit here and not have any food because of their jobs, because they're not making enough money. You know, I just want them to live a comfortable life, and I want the future to just be a little bit comfortable thanks to this federal bill.
Yeah, and so talking about like your current, you know, your wages and your working conditions, there's this common anti-union talking point that people ask, like, or use, like, well, if you don't like your job or if the pay's too low, then why stay? Just get a job somewhere else, as if, for one, that's an easy thing to do. But sometimes that's not actually what workers want. Sometimes they want to stay. So can you tell us why you stick with your job at the airport?
I want to retire from the airport. Oh, the airport is a good job. I've had a lot of jobs, you know, in my young adult life. I've had a lot of jobs. There's not one that compares to the airport, you know. Excuse me. I come in every day. I see smiles. I see smiles on my coworkers. We laugh, we talk, we go get some of that overpriced food, you know. Um, we go to Starbucks, we hang out, we talk, we laugh, we work. You know, the airport is a very safe space for us, you know, and it's a place that we can feed our kids, and it's a place where we can level up and move up to, you know. There's many opportunities in the airport to move up, many opportunities. You can start off as a cabin cleaner and end up as a pilot if you really wanted it. You know, it's opportunities in the airport that makes me want to stick at the airport, because I can go work a regular job right now at a McDonald's. I can move up to be a manager, but am I really happy on moving up and being a manager there? Am I really coming to work and being fulfilled? It's the most as I feel. You know, it's no knock to McDonald's. That's a great place. I love the food, but I need to come to a job where I can feel free and rewarding and not feel like I'm overstressed to do my job.
And so we've talked about your job and being a member of a union, and about the bill, the Good Jobs for Good Airports Act, which I'm not sure for sure, but I know when the legislation was first introduced, I didn't see any co-sponsors from Florida, including Val Deming. So hopefully she signs on, or, you know, but my question for you, I guess, is what are you asking for from folks that are listening, whether it's politicians or just like everyday people? What do you want folks to get away from this?
When you walk through the airport, when you walk through the airport and you see us, just think about what I'm saying. We have no money. As workers, we have no money. You know, we're living paycheck to paycheck. We're going to sleep hungry because we have to decide whether we're gonna feed ourselves or feed our kids, and 9 times out of 10, we're gonna feed our kids first. We're getting old. We don't have much time, you know? Like, what I'm trying to basically say is we're human beings. We're not machines. Like, we have feelings too. And just because we load your bags up on those planes, just because we push you in those wheelchairs, doesn't mean we don't have problems too, because we do. We got real serious issues going on. I personally just went to a store and I told the lady about what's going on, and she looked me in my eyes and told me I make more money than you. And that's working at a Family Dollar. So I really want the listeners to sit in and think about people at McDonald's, people at Walmart, people at Target are making way more money than people who are actually loading bags at the airport, fueling planes at the airport, wheelchair accessible, helping people in wheelchairs at airports. It's regular common jobs out here that are really just trumping the airport when it comes to wages. And I just want the politicians, if they hear this, just understand that we're poor, we're broke, and I can't put that in any more context than what I'm saying. Like, we have no money. The money that we have is not much, you know. I just really want them to understand that. Like, I'm 26 years old and I have no food in the refrigerator. I can't stress this enough. I had a can of carrots and some garlic bread for dinner last night. Like, let that really sink in, you know? Like, this is real life, and I really hope we can get this federal bill passed so I can have a better life and a better future.
Yeah, it is a strange phenomenon to see. Just, you know, it's like you're working at an airport. It's such important work just to keep things going. As you said before, like, the airport's like a machine, and everybody needs to be taken care of in order to make everything function. And, you know, you see these airline CEOs making just like millions, billions of dollars a year, whereas the people doing the essential work, like yourself, actually keeping things running, are just kind of struggling to survive, especially in a place like Tampa, where the cost of living has just skyrocketed. It's difficult for pretty much anybody, whether you're like considered a low income person or even middle income earners. So, and everybody deserves a living wage. You know, seeing McDonald's workers making, I see the signs, it's like up to $13, $14 an hour to start. And as if that's kind of like super attractive, because again, it's just like still not enough. But then you have workers like yourself that are doing this really important work. And sometimes I know, like with the wheelchair attendants, relying on tips, but folks don't even know that you can tip or that you should tip these workers because they're relying on them, that extra income. So it's just, it is tough, but it's so inspiring to just see the kind of actions that you and your union are taking. I know even just like over the past year, I've covered a few of your actions and stuff. And it's been really heartwarming for me to be able to see you've accomplished and to see what you're currently fighting for.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because you can replace us. You can replace those parts in the machines, but those same parts that you replaced the old parts with are going to start acting up just like those old parts. And you're still going to have the same problem with that machine until you fix the source of that problem.
And I guess if you don't mind me asking, I have another question. Like, so I asked like, what you would be asking for from like politicians or everyday working people listening, but what about the people who are in charge, who have power and authority at the airports? What would you want them to know?
You're making money off of my back. You're making money off of my back. I sit up there in that cabin and I clean your planes. I've been a baggage handler. I've sat in your planes and I've loaded those bags till my back hurted. I've done that. You know, I've sat there and dealt with rude customers while you sat in your office drinking something from Starbucks. I dealt with that. And I still came to work with a smile on my face. You know, you guys sat there and you put a $42,000 flamingo in the middle of the airport and didn't even think to let the money trickle down to the workers. But you'll take care of the outside before you take care of the inside. And that's not how life works. You got to take care of the inside before you take care of the outside. That's just not how life works. If I don't pay my rent, I'm out. You know, if I get my paycheck and I go buy some clothes, that's taking care of the outside instead of paying my rent. Now I'm in the wrong. Now I'm going to lose my place because I had the money. You're going to keep losing workers over the years, and you're going to find out these companies are going to keep getting so stressed out from being underworked that they're just going to go on strike or they're just going to quit. And you're just going to have to keep replacing people. And it's going to become such a big problem. So one day the whole airport's probably going to shut down and go on strike. You got to do something now before it's too late. Because if you don't do something now, something dramatic is going to happen. You know, you want to continue making money. You want those flights to keep getting out on time. Take care of your workers. Take care of the airport. Take care of what's inside before we start taking care of what's outside. You know, you guys got plans on building this big, huge airport for 2035. But what about all the workers? What about all the workers that are going to be there in 2035? Are we still going to be making $12, $11 an hour after you guys got done building this huge multiplex of an airport? You know, like it doesn't make sense. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants something to look good, but you never understand what's going on in the inside. You got to take care of what's going on in the inside.
Yeah, for sure. I see that a lot with even covering like local government and stuff, just you know, politicians, elected officials putting on a good front or addressing the aesthetic and not really addressing what's going on internally, including workers' struggles like yourself at the airport. You know, maybe caring more about adding I don't know if I can curse, but a fucking flamingo to the airport instead of paying your workers a living wage. So is there anything?
I just also wanted to point something out. I was in the cafeteria one day and all I could buy was fries. And I'm not name dropping it all in here because I don't want to get nobody in trouble. But there was a guy, and I know he works for the airport because I seen him when Val Denny's came. He saw me buy those fries. I only had like $2 to buy some fries. He bought me food. So whoever you were, and you know who you are, if you're gonna listen to this or even listening, you know that I only had $2 to buy some fries. Because the day before that, I had to pay my rent and that's all I had left. So they gotta understand where we're coming from. Because it's, you know, I shouldn't have to go through that. Like it's
Yeah, so that was like a dude, like one of the like top people at the airport or something, like one of the suits people.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Like any last words, final words about yourself, your job, or your union, what you're fighting for?
We're coming and we're coming hard. We have a conference next month in Orlando, a leadership conference that I'll be speaking at. We're gonna get this federal bill passed, and I'm gonna try to make it my mission to get this bill passed before the end of the year, or if not, the beginning of the year or the middle of the year. But we have to do something. Like I'm not trying to sit on here and plead for help or anything. I just want to let people know, like, this is real life. And when you see those people in the airport, we're real people. We don't make a lot of money. We make just enough money to pay our bills. We don't live, we don't live like middle class to upper class people. It's not right. It's just not right, man. I've seen people get hurt at the airport on machines, and be out of work for 3 months with no compensation. Like it's a lot of stuff I could say I wish I can, but I can't. But yeah, I just want to thank you for giving me a platform and let me say what I want to say. But in due time, the truth will come out about the airports because they know they're wrong. They know they're wrong.
Yeah, man. Thanks for speaking with us and speaking to me. I'm really glad that we got in touch. But yeah, thanks again for just sharing your story and what you're fighting for. I'm really excited to see what comes next.
You know, thank you.